Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Essential, and today is Sunday, September, I was going to say August for crap's sake, 23rd, 2018, and I'm with my friends, Lisa Flamino Rush and BZ Rieger, and happy equinox. That was actually what, yesterday? Well, I guess it depends on where you are when you're watching this. It's either the 22nd or the 23rd. And we're going to talk about, I love it. You even got a title this time, BZ. That was awesome. In a quantum shower, no less, which is also awesome. I love those quantum showers, by the by. Multidimensional strategies to the unwinding and unbinding of the swamp and the false construct.
Oh my.
Yeah. So do tell about these multidimensional strategies. I feel some of them, but I think I do. But
okay, well, play. Let's go.
Oh, I'm not sure. This is something that's. Come on. No, this is. Well, it just feels like there is so much going on.
I know.
Okay, to me, it feels like there is so much going on in all dimensions, actually.
Yeah.
Because there's, I've been feeling, and I've said before, I actually shared with someone else today, and I'm waiting to hear back from them, their thoughts and feelings about it. That there are things that are taking place where either certain densities or dimensions are overlapping purposefully or accidentally or both. And in some cases, I feel, in one very close case, I feel it's being done as a safe space or place. For activities to take place. And I'm feeling that that's part of what has been going on with the storm over here on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just found out that as of this moment, that storm is still actually churning off the coast.
Yeah, you can see it. There's still the 2 layers of clouds here over the house.
That's
and
interesting.
There is a low swirl going on.
I know. I was not aware of any of that. I felt it, but I was not aware of that until, I don't know, about an hour before we all.
Today was very foggy and misty, wasn't it? You can't see anything today.
But I don't know. I just that's just a portion of what I feel, and I do feel that there's that for whatever reason, for me, it feels significant in terms of what you brought up to talk about this evening. For me, I have nothing I can point to anyone except the feeling that I have, and well, it's almost like a knowing. I don't even know how to explain it. So other than that, how it's being done, who's doing it, why it's being done, exactly what all is taking place, I got nothing about that at the moment. I'm open to hearing all about it.
Take your finger and turn it this way, and that's one of the who's. Turn it, yeah.
I think I'm not. I think I'm not supposed to know yet, because I will know when it's time. I have come to trust that.
Stuff. You're already.
Excuse me.
You're already doing stuff.
No, I know. I'm aware. I'm just saying that I will know more about it when it's time, because part of the reason I don't know is because I am a communicator, and that's what I will do. The moment I know, and I am dizzy AF as I say this, the moment I know, so will everyone else. That's why I don't get things until I get things. That's something that just now came in that I know is a truth. And so I'm very comfortable with the fact that all I have is a feeling right now. And it's something that may not prove to be exactly that way, the way I'm feeling it and describing it in this moment of now. But I also feel like it's very close to that. I have some, thoughts about what it is that's going on, but again, that's just supposition there or speculation.
Well, one of the things I think might be helpful to kind of put out there as the framing of what we're playing with is that the strategies that are all being employed not only are multidimensional strategies because they have complexity and multidimensionality to them, but because this is being done by all in a multidimensional construct. So they have to be multidimensional. And you could start at the very widest aperture in that source, and source only plays in multidimensionality. So I guess what I'm asking everybody is to step with their perspective way out as far as they can, and that is wherever it is that you can get it. That it isn't just something in Washington, D.C. or the country called United States or America. It isn't just in the last few years. It's not just a couple political parties. It's it's the whole enchilada. So that's why the title that was given was The Swamp and False Construct, because everything is related, and this is something that we'll talk about a little later in this conversation. But so that's part of it. So that it's very helpful to, maybe you're getting you could call it, it's not accurate, but you could call it a bird's eye view of what's going on. So if you get the eagle view and you're flying overhead, you can see it's not just DC, and it's not just those things I talked about. It's the whole planet and beyond, and it's not just draining the swamp or realizing that that there is a false construct and what that is and all that entails. It's ultimately about physical body ascension and the multidimensional strategies of unbinding and unwinding, the swamp and the false construct, is all the task to get as many beings aware and expanding to that point where they can make the choice to go through physical body ascension. Not everybody will, but that's part of the multidimensional strategies, is to do that. So like I said, so now if you're looking on the eagle's view, okay, well, this is like a galactic eagle flying, looking down. That's what the strategies are. So it's bigger than that. So when someone says, well, why don't they just do this or that or that, or that? Because it isn't just this or that, because it's all connected, and because that's why there's a lot of theater going on. And intentionally a lot of theater going on, because that theater is part of the multidimensional strategies to have different things play out for a couple of reasons. So I'll play with that just a little piece for a minute. Yes, it's the specific, so specificity, particularity about something that was done. We'll just use that as an example. And so there's theater around that. But there's also how that is then connected to other things, and there's theater around that. There's also theater around that because that, in that theater, it does, it brings forth the opportunity to do, well, I'm going to say two of them. There's probably more. Two things. One is that it, for people to even, if there's enough theater of enough things going on, those are triggers. That theater is a trigger for people to go, wow, my eyeballs just unstuck and I'm now looking at this in a slightly different way, right? Instead of whatever I was stuck on and focused on, and right? And another part of that, so that could be a you know, a two-step dance, or it doesn't have any time in between, and sometimes it has a long time in between, and that is integration of that. So that's really the big bird's eye view of all that's going on, and that helps you then see all the multidimensional strategies. And as you, when you see them as actual multidimensional strategies, then things make more sense. And even if you don't, let's say, grok all the nuances of one particular thing, as you just said, Sheila, you can feel into different parts of it. And you also know to wait for it, because you know it's coming, you can feel it coming, and something else, and then you can put them together. So that's really what's unfolding. I'm just checking what else I put down here. Oh, and one of the reasons, this is all from the download document, one of the reasons that you know, it needs to be done this way is because there's a non-interference rule, and it's an inside job. So people need to, all beings need to do it themselves. And yes, there's lots of help and they're not missing anything, but they've got to have the, because that's part of, you know, this is a big deal. Physical body ascension, you know, you could say a linear way to describe it is a big deal, because it's a magnificent, delicious thing. And something that is occurring, you know, again, from a linear perspective, you could think of some major achievement, some, you know, delicious goal that you had. And those are really pale, woefully inaccurate linear terms, but it, you know, kind of gives you a little bit of this. And so that's what this is really all about. So, and then there's, you know, I don't know if we want to stop there. We can play with that. And then I have some different examples that came in all of this too.
Well, I stopped and wrote something down there because there, and maybe this is an entirely different video, and there are an awful lot of people that haven't got a clue as to what in-body ascension is. And so if there's
that's a whole nother
choice, so, you know, I realize that's what I'm saying, but in part of what you were saying earlier in regards to,
so I froze or you froze. So what did you say? In regards to what I was saying earlier?
Yes, in regards to what you were saying earlier, you said something to the effect of that, you know, folks need to get to a point where they can make a choice.
Yes.
And so what is that choice then? We're also talking about, you know, in-body ascension and how it's an inside job.
The choice is to do what's necessary for your being to integrate and to clear and to ride the waves of expansion, so that you're choosing, you know, the physical and body ascension.
Right.
And it's not like you didn't read the right newspaper or listen to the right video, because it's an inside job and you're never not connected, and you're always having conversations going on over and over and over, whether or not you put Facebook down or whatever long enough to listen to it. It's happening, you know. So nobody's left out.
I'm in full agreement. No, I'm in full agreement. But I'm feeling I don't know if I'm feeling someone out there, something within myself, or something. There's an incongruency here that I can't.
I can clean. I may be.
Okay, in order to make. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I could clean. I got nudged to offer something that may clean a little bit of that up. Now, those are my words. I'm using that. That's what I was given to use. Not all may look at that. There are star seeds, you know, so to say, that are awake, but they may not be awake to the fact that they're a star seed. They don't know. But look at them, feel them, watch them come from their heart, see their energy, and they are. So we're in a realm where there's, you know, linear minds and woefully inaccurate linear language. You know, we just got to deal with that and do our best to work around it.
No, I'm in agreement with you. I am in agreement with you. That, I think, is partly my point here. What I'm saying is, you were saying earlier that people, to get people to the point where they making a choice, because it is an inside job in order to do the embody ascension. And what I'm saying is that if one doesn't know what embody ascension is, and I realize what you're saying is that everyone is source, and that on some level they know, and on some level they've made a choice, and I get that part. I'm down with that. I don't have an issue with that. There's some incongruency in what you're saying, and now I've kind of lost the thread as to why I felt that, but it still feels to me like there was an incongruency somewhere, and it's either something within me, obviously, or I know I heard someone not following that, and that's why I brought that up.
Did you pick up on it, Lisa?
No.
Okay. Well,
I'm sorry.
If there was someone that did have a question, because this has happened before now, where I've heard something,
yeah,
and I did hear from the person who had the question. So I would really appreciate it if that is the case in this one. When you're watching this video, please write to me at the email address ppcunite@gmail.com and let me know exactly what your question was.
Or send it again right now.
Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Good idea. Yes, wonderful.
Why wait?
Go with it.
Yeah, please continue. Maybe I'll just pick it up.
Yeah, let's do that.
So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that doesn't have to be in someone's vernacular to call it that. For that choice to come up within them and them to work with and to move through it. You know, because some people say, well, you know, I remember years ago people thinking, well, most of the stuff is in English, and how are these people who don't speak English now? I'm thinking, seriously?
Yeah.
It's
a
hard job.
It's a hard job. Yeah, it's an inside thing is the only way to say it. Okay, so I remember Heather's using the words enforcement when she was initially describing that we would now be taking over the handling of our own affairs. And people were like, well, who's going to enforce that? And she said, it's enforcement. And I really sat with that. And I have to say that in the most delicious way, I've really witnessed enforcement, left, right, and center. And I have also observed a lot of people who operate fully with their hearts turned on and from a heart space. Now, they couldn't have a conversation with me about that subject in the way that the three of us are having, but they do it anyway.
Right.
And so I think it is just it's so innate to us as human beings that well, the real issue, in my opinion, is that we have dismissed anything that comes from inside. I mean, I have really observed myself do it so fully and completely, do it, meaning dismiss what comes from me initially. There's always a first impulse. There's always something that comes to me first. And it's not, it generally for me, it is a quiet voice. It's not the loudest voice in the room. It will not argue a point with me. It just is there, and what I have witnessed myself doing is I immediately bat that away. And I mean, I used to bat it so hard that I didn't see it coming. Like it was kind of like Pong. You remember that thing that would come up and there was just like this little, but then it would go faster. Well, I'm just so reflectively dismissing of my first impulse that I don't even recognize, I have a first impulse, nor do I pay any attention to it. So when I start to pay attention and I start to notice that, I realized that had I paid attention to the first thing that I batted away so quickly, so swiftly, was actually the thing I needed the most, the answer, the peace, the whatever, the direction. And I really think that's what this is about. This is about that little thing that wants to quietly come forward isn't as quiet as it used to be. And nor is it as patient, because I've noticed that if I do ignore it, okay, so it will come out kind of, as a whisper, and then I bat that away real quick. So then it'll come in a little bit louder, and so then I want to argue with that because I'm really good at debate. Got a sharp debate skill from playing with this. Yeah. Okay. Well then, after a while, it's moving into the physical realm to where it's like I'm physically just kind of picked up and moved over here because I kept saying no to going over there so many times that the next thing I know it, I'm just over here going, gee, I wonder how I got here. And generally, it's more fun when I choose how I get from here to there. So what I'm saying here is, it is an inside job, and it's not happening to just me. It's happening to everyone. Yes. And the people who are consciously aware of it, I believe, can work with it, because that's what I'm doing. I'm working with what wants to transform inside of me, and it wants it so badly now that it's just busting out of every pore. So, I could just let it bust and ooze all over, or I could work with it, like Lama's training comes to mind. I can breathe with it, I can go with it, I can facilitate what's happening in a way that's more enjoyable and rewarding for me and everybody else in the room.
Right. One thing I would just point of clarification on what you were saying is that you said that it wants to, come in and take over. It is you.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, I know you get that, but for any others, okay. Well, what the hell is this it? Why do I take over? I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, great goose.
Lisa is taking
the it.
Yeah. More of me. Right, well, and there's so much of me out there, and the body feels suddenly so tiny by comparison. But I'm realizing that actually my cellular structure is changing so that I can hold eternity within this little body. And I'm really, really starting to feel that in a physical way by allowing and working with more of this energy that is me, that is joining me in this physical, this little physical me has to sort of make room. And the room is, I'm seeing it as, I put up all these walls and stuff, and the walls are coming down, and that's the room. So I always had plenty of room. There was room at the inn. It was just, full of clutter. So the clutter is leaving, and oh man, it feels.
Yeah, yes, and I found a whole bunch of partitions in mine. You know, those for me, that's what I feel are the veils that a lot of folks refer to. There's a whole bunch of that, all partitioned off all over, in all parts of my field, and they're just dropping away bits by bits. That too, and because I hear someone out there saying, well, how is that a strategy? Well, actually, by doing all of that, working with the energy and realizing that it's there for us rather than, something to be resisted. And that is a strategy that is, in my view, helping to unbind and unwind the false construct.
And it's a big strategy. So I wrote it down, and it now has a number next to it for a conversation. So we'll do that. But I would call what Lisa was talking about is it's a way for you to then understand how of seeing all the strategies, multidimensional strategies that are out there. Because think about it. If you're thinking that the unfolding of the game and the strategies and how we will know when we're there and all that kind of thing, and you're only thinking the game is the swamp, and you're only thinking that the swamp is in DC or in the United States, then you're missing 99% of the game. So when there are strategies and things unfolding in theater about this, that, and the other thing that are relating to some of these other things out here, and you don't know that they're the game, you'll go, well, you'll dismiss them. You won't understand it. You won't see how they're connected. It won't make sense to you because you're not looking at the whole board, to use the game metaphor, right?
Right. And for me, I see, for me personally, and so anytime it works for me this way, there's got to be at least one or two out there that it could work that way for them too. And I will say that for me personally, as my internal veils drop,
yes,
and this just came in while you were saying that, BZ, we have little by little trained ourselves, or been trained, however one must hold this, to hold our apertures so tiny, not just it's pervasive everywhere. Look at, I know this is, but just go with me on this. The medical field has specialized things to the nth degree, to the point where it's almost like they don't even realize it's all one body because, well, I don't know, we didn't learn about that over there. Well, it affects the whole body. Everything about the body affects the body. So by specializing on only one thing, I saw this a lot in my professional career. When one has these blinders on and only looking at one thing, one fails to see how other things are affected by all these other things that are around. And so I view these veils that are within me very much the same as it is in all corporations across the board. I don't care where it is, and all things like that. Wherever there's compartmentalizations, part of that has been by design to confuse and obfuscate and all of those things. So the overall strategies of going within and having these veils removed helps one to then see the overall picture and how all of this is connected. Everything with Heather and Randy, everything with the disclosure movement, everything with the spiritual movement, everything has to do with everything. And for me, that's another strategy of those veils coming down. And it's one we designed into the game. And each one of us take our own veils down as it suits, I feel.
Yes. Yeah, well, and one of the things that came to mind when you were talking about that is that those, you talked about the in corporations, the partitions and this, that, and the other thing, but you can only see the partitions when you are expanding your aperture, because when you're in your narrow focus, that's what it is. And just like we've done this thing with the, with the focus. Oh, well, wow, 3/4 of my computer's disappeared. Well, no, it hasn't. I've just narrowed my focus so that I can only see that. So let's go play with a couple examples. This might help some of the people who are thinking they're not quite sure about this. So for one example, and it doesn't matter whether because it's been put out broad enough now, you probably have seen something about it, even if you're not paying much attention to Q. So they put out something. They had a couple little tiny drops that had to do with non-locals, and the alluding to that. And so then some anons wrote some questions that were specific. And how is this? Okay. So this is how, actually I do this a lot, where either in answering a question or having a conversation around a question, because to me, there are multiple answers, because everything is multidimensional. Oftentimes I am moved to moved from just me right here in this chair, or nudged from all of me to illuminate certain things in the conversation with that question that then lights something up. How was it, came in? Yeah, that lights something up for each individual person to then maybe give some focus and attention to, so that they can come up, so they can notice it. Because we've all been told this, that, or the other thing, you're wrong, you're right, you're this, you're that, this black, it's white, it's whatever it is. And it hasn't worked that good for us, because look where we are. We gave all of our power away. And now we're seeing we went to the nth degree of giving our power away, and now some already know their power, and some are learning it, and some haven't got a clue, and some know that their power is inside bursting out, and it's making them go batshit crazy. Just look around out there. So it's not because of, you could say that's a conservative or a liberal, you could say it's a Kavanaugh or this, you could use all sorts of excuses for it. But when you boil it all down, it's because the truth of who you are is busting loose. and you're either going, wow, look at that wing, or you're not. And it's still, wanting to bust loose out of the confines that you put in it. And another reason, I'll get back to Q in a minute, but in the non-locals, another reason that I do that, and I'll give you the example that Q does the same thing, is because that's part of the non-interference clause. You can't be told. It doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. So Q had a couple drops, and it was hints about non-locals. So one of them, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing, one of them, an anon, came back and asked specifically about the moon landings and the secret space program. So again, in an alluding to different things and illuminating them for people to then choose how they want to focus, give their focus and attention on something, and what's then coming up in them at that moment. It could be, and they go investigate. It could be there's resistance. It could be all sorts of things. And all of that is integration. That's all goes back to what I said before, about to get as many people to a place where they can choose. So everything that happens, every phrase, word, picture, video, everything is all those things of illumination to have moments to choose and to look and to go within. So some people can look at that because they're very linear and they look for, I'm not going to bother to try to find it because it'll take me forever to find the thing. But he did, so someone said, oh, well, he said, he says his answer, they say their answer in a way that we did go to the moon. And there's much, he never mentioned the word secret space program, but there's much official operations on there, something to that effect. So
I think he even mentioned that they lied, they faked the moon landing and they went to the moon, I think was in that one from Q.
No, he that's what I'm getting to. He didn't say that. But so some people read it as, you're picking up on what I was about to say.
Yeah,
some people read it as,
I've got it right here.
Do you?
Yeah. Did NASA fake the moon landings? Have we been to the moon since then? Are there secret space programs? Is this why the Space Force was created? And his words were false, moon landings are real. Programs exist that are outside of public domain. Those were his words in regards to the...
So one of the things that I'm trying to bring up with this is that instead of being specific and taking each part, which actually they really didn't, what Lisa brought up is that, yes, the official moon landings were faked. They had to be because the official technology that we have does not exist to get us outside of the Van Allen belt. Does that mean we didn't go to the moon? Absolutely not. We absolutely did go to the moon. Okay? We just didn't go and get there in the way, and we've been there many times. In fact, we go all the time. So, again, these are one of these things. So, because when something like, and this is just one tiny example, but when something like that comes up, then there's all sorts of gyrations that goes on within someone, and they're looking at things, and they realize that a question does not have one answer, because these are multidimensional strategies, because we are multidimensional, and this is in the space of multidimensionality. So there have to be multiple different, you could call them answers, you could call them scenarios, you could call them ways that things unfold for that to work.
Well, I keep going back to, for me, that once everyone really finally groks, and this is coming, I do feel that is coming, that the idea that there's one way to do things, or one right and one wrong about things, that will change. It will. It has to. There's no way around that.
Well, it's so.
Well, it is so.
Everybody else will change.
And well, the moment for me, that the very moment that made it for me more real than real, is the moment when I really comprehended that the exact reason that we're all separate is the exact reason. I mean, there's more than just that reason, but it is the first reason that I got it, that I can be right, and what can be right for me can be wrong for someone else, and they both be the right thing. Mm-hmm. And that's what I keep feeling like everybody's got to get a grip on, that is the way it is, because it's always been, well, no, there's a right and there's a wrong. Okay, yeah, but there's also a right and a right, and a wrong and a wrong, and there's all there's all flavors of all that.
Right. And none of the rights and wrongs are wrong because they're all
No, exactly correct. Well, at the very moment but I have to tell you, the very moment that you say that there is no right and wrong, whoa, that gets everybody going.
Well,
Of
right
course.
and wrong is linear. Right and wrong is hierarchical. Right and wrong is judgmental. Right and wrong are two big ass boxes that we've been in. And most of the time we've been in the wrong box, even though we thought we were in the right box. You know, so that's just a small part of it. Another example that I had someone in the video we were doing, the absolute data.
Your mic's going out for some reason.
Huh?
Your mic was going out again.
The absolute data of Gaia Portal, you know, someone had left a comment on your thing about, there was something that I said in there that I was talking about the line in there about higher lights flow in. And so I was talking about the light and the sun, and some people have noticed that the observatory is going offline. That's what that was about. So actually that's part of this, the theater that's going on, and part of the multidimensional strategies for unwinding and unbinding. So yes, there were one big particular ship in there were lots, but one in particular, because we've all been doing so much good work, whether we were paying attention, you know, the one in the shirt here was paying attention or not, that we whistled us up, play with that one, and we came and we did some adjustments, and the pulse of light, this is what I talked about in the video. It's at the 45-ish mark. Anyway, so the question that came in, well, other people are talking about a big ship coming, and I didn't mention, well, I alluded to the big ship, but again, part of it is because a lot of, well, I'm illuminating stuff that's already within you, and it's your choice then to follow that nudge to see what percolates. And that's as far as I am supposed to go. So I said the same thing lots of other people were saying. I just did it a little differently, and I was focusing on the light and the sun and what was going on. And now I'm using it. The only reason I'm really bringing it up now is because now I'm using it to illustrate that particular thing. And you can go back and hear what I said. But I'm using it to now illustrate theater and multidimensional strategies of the unwinding and unbinding. So some could say, well, why was there, you know, look at them blocking, you know, the observatories were all turned off, the ones that focused on the sun. Okay. So that, again, that's my illumination. So look into that, feeling into it is most important. You can do some looking out there, but you still have to feel into it, because even if you find a video or article, you got to feel into it, because it has to go through you in the process. And things are not time driven, date driven, they're event driven. And one of the biggest events, pun intended, is each one of us, and how we're illuminating ourselves, allowing ourselves to be illuminated, and how we're going within, and how we're listening to all the myriad of conversations from us, to us, with us, all three of those things, for what's going on. And that helps with how things are unfolding. And because a critical mass number of beings are doing that, you know, more and more and more expansively, that's why everything is speeding up. That's why kind of things are jumping up as far as expansion. And the actually more sublimely delicious and on the one hand, you could look at them complex, multidimensional strategies, yet they're just beautifully simple. They're so simple, they seem complex because it's like, wow, you know, are now unfolding and being employed, again, on every part of all of this that's unfolding. So, and I want to tie one other example I had into that one, and you know, just a lot of people having conversations if they're paying attention to the swamp training, and you know, DJT, Donald Trump, and Sessions. Well, some people say, well, Sessions is no good because he's not listening to this and this and that and the other thing. Well, okay, but again, that's part of the theater. That's part of the waking up. That's part of all of this coming through. I mean, what does the mainstream media do? What has the mainstream media done intentionally through the various programs that their controllers have put out and put them through? And since the box, you know, with the rabbit ears came out, that's what that box was designed for.
Oh, absolutely.
That box was not designed for your favorite show. The favorite show was designed for the box to catch you in thrall. Anyways, I don't want to go, that's a whole nother conversation, but all of that, but part of it is the repetition. You know, it's why pharmaceutical commercials, you know, are 30 seconds, and in a 30-minute slot, there's actually only, well, it's increased now, but I think, I haven't watched TV in a long time, my sense is now it's probably around 19 minutes, 0.45 seconds of actual airtime of the show, and the rest is commercials.
You're approximately correct. I will bet, judging by a 30-minute show on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and what I'm trying to get to there, the point is that repetition. So it's reinforcing, it's coming at you, and it's actually coming at different angles. That's why, you know, soap operas had different plots and twists and turns, but it's around a core. So the theater of unwinding and unbinding from a multidimensional way, in order to unwind and unbind the locks that we put on, the different, you know, thralls that have allowed ourselves to be locked into. Because remember, nobody's missing anything. That has to be kind of part of, incorporated a little bit on each of the multidimensional strategies, because those are blocks that have to be then have light shined on. And I mean light in all sorts of ways, you know, energetic, metaphoric, actual physical light, all of that kind of thing.
Right.
And so that's why you're seeing, you know, all the hearings or all this or all that. Well, part of that is the whole process that people are going through, because first it's frustrated, and then it's this, and then it's that. And then because in that process, unless they get stuck in the, you know, howling like a banshee, you know, because they're frustrated at something, they're actually widening their aperture. And each being is doing it themselves. And as it starts to, you know, so it's kind of like this, and as it starts to click back, right? And then they can catch something out of the corner of their eye here, and they go, whoa. And so they can put the pieces together. Much like how the physical body is going through so many changes, to, as you guys were both talking about, to incorporate all of you, right? You know, and I'm going to know, because I think that'd be a really fun show, you know, what does the universe inside me feel like, you know, but to incorporate that in, all of our body and all of the bodies have to change. Okay, so now, again, go for a bigger perspective and think about the mind and the mental construct and the psyche that is in this tight aperture that's been trained that way and you know, negatively, adversely reinforced continuously in every segment sector. So it's got to open up, because otherwise it literally will shatter from that. Can it get over it? Absolutely. But what I'm saying is that's why all of these, so again, if you step back for a minute and look at the board and look what's being undone, unwinded and unbinded, and how it's happening, that's why all of these parts and parcels have to be involved in that. Because it's not just a bunch of texts from, you know, Peter Strzok and you know, his chick on the side, or her guy on the side, and things that are just happening, that just got revealed, that just got found out, have been known for a long time, and all of what you're seeing there is theater as well, because that was part of, because from my perspective, and I think we're going to see this play out, it's the only way we can get to where we want to go. You know, it has to be where it's all on a way of truth and reconciliation. Because if it's all focused on hang the bastards and punitive, well, then we're just now swapped places of doing that. I, for one, and I know millions of other beings that don't want any part of that.
No.
Nope. I know I don't either. Exactly correct.
So, but in order to have that play out, then you have it, because people are so attached, because they were trained that way, to the drama and the sitcom. I mean, look, it's just like all this terrible stuff that's happening, and I mean, you know, like, it's really pathetically terrible, is happening because it's just like the soap operas. It's just like the sitcoms. It's exactly like it, because that's what people are used to, because those are the small little snatches and bites, you know, and then you got a stupid commercial with a distraction over here and this and the other thing. And I mean, that's what's going on, because that's how the unwinding and binding has occurred. Now, for many beings, that's not necessary. And those beings feel frustrated or whatever because it's not happening or what's going on, until they widen their aperture, and then they go, I got it. You know, and other things. And then in that I got it, then they realize, and whatever they term it, however they call it, that's when the core of them is coming in, the big conversations and all of that goes through, and all the choices are going through. Even if on a linear cognitive and languaging way, they don't know about in-body ascension. It doesn't matter, because the words are just words, and they're woefully inaccurate. Okay, it's an energetic gig, and they feel it.
Well, I guess the I think too now, because it's kind of coming back. When you use the terms choice in regards to getting people to a point where they can choose, and you continued on in the conversation and brought up the embodied ascension, I think that's where the confusion for either, and I'm just saying, I get it. I'm on board. I feel the multidimensionality of it, and I'm doing my inner work. But the way that's worded, maybe I just have to get over the word or something. But there is a question in there. So whomever it is that I'm picking up, please do, because I'm picking it up again. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
How can you choose if you don't know what it is you're choosing from?
Well, not only how can you choose if you don't know what you're choosing from, but, or that there's even a choice to be made or anything. I guess that's what the way it's, I don't know. There's something in that for some reason. I'm not clear about it, but it won't go away. So I had to
have them. Okay. So write in and we'll play with that.
Yes, please do. Please
not
do,
now,
whomever that is.
Because I'm not going to assume what it is that.
Well, yes, I won't use your name either. It's not like no, I'm very good about that. So
the only thing I will play with on that right now is how can you choose if you don't know what you're doing? Well, you do, because then you're assuming that you're this small, tiny little being that is insignificant, as you've been told all your life that you are, and that every system and structure and company and television show tells you and reinforces that. And that's simply not the case. You may not be aware of that yet, but it's still simply not the case. You're amazing. You are multidimensional. You are, your actual personal space, your energetic space takes up enormous quadrants of space. So that would be one answer to that. And is your linear being, the think part of you that's, sitting in the shirt or whatever clothing, if you have it any on, is wearing, may not grok that. But if you're even listening to this, then you're listening enough to whatever your name is, big, whatever your name is, that you're here because you brought this to you. It had nothing to do with me or Lisa or Sheila. You did it. So this is not happening in a vacuum. And you are not, and Sheila's finally figured this one out, you are not disconnected.
No, you're not. And I know, absolutely. And I will say this too about that, because this came in for me while you were speaking there, BZ. The more I own just how connected I have been, and the more I trust in that connection all the time. I still have little wavers, but I just, even if I don't really grok or comprehend what it is I'm saying, I'm just giving what I'm getting now, regardless. And it feels to me that just begets more. And so it's as though for that being that's asking those questions, the more I trust myself, the more I can feel and comprehend what I think is going on for me. So yeah. I think that, and I think that's across the board for every one of us, actually.
Yeah, you bring up a good point I want to make as a program note here. So just as how all the things that you could say in the false construct, with the swamp, with the cabal, Illuminati, which are all, the highest they are is middle management and below, because the controllers are non-local. But anyways, with that, just how all of that is hidden in plain sight, and to some it's really plain sight, and yeah, I can see it all, and some it's deeply hidden, deeply hidden. So just what Sheila was talking about, those nudges, that connection to yourself, and the obviousness, and the continual, consistent, ever expanding, and ever all-encompassingness of that connection is hidden in plain sight.
Well, let me just share something that has come in about all of that for me. Okay. One day, just recently, I kind of realized that all of my life, the whole idea that, I'm so smart, and, I'm a genius, and, all of these kinds of things that I've heard, mostly with derision, but I now actually recognize as my connection. I mean, yeah, okay, I'm intelligent, but that's to me, now I can see it. Now because everybody always said to me, "Oh, you're so smart, Sheila." And I was like, wait a minute, hold up a second. I might have graduated when I was 16. Well, it was the first time in the state of Florida that they allowed 16-year-olds to take the test. So, I could have guessed my way through that. Oh, or did I? And it wasn't because I studied hard in school. I can guarantee you that. So I'm not real sure, but I guess my thing is sometime either earlier this week or late last week, it started dawning on me. Oh, wait a minute. Because, a lot of folks didn't have issue with me because, Sheila's right all the time about stuff that she couldn't possibly know. And I did. I thought that, and now I recognize that as my connection, and I'm honoring that as that connection, because I see it now as that. So it could, your connection could be there, and because it's been something that
is
just
not could be.
You're right. But I'm saying that I didn't recognize mine, and I'm seeing right in this moment that the part of the reason was the programming I allowed, and that I continued in some ways to perpetuate on my own.
Yeah.
That my connection was something else entirely than what it is. It is a very strong connection that just happens to, come out in a specific way. But that particular connection over the course of my childhood and my young adult life and into my adult life was sort of derided in some ways as, oh, well, she's a know-it-all, or, whatever. Oh, never mind that she was right about it, but, whatever, right? Because there's this whole thing about, but I do see now where there's a lot of that stuff that was what we all think of as telepathy or, hearing your higher self. It's just, it was so effing subtle that I viewed it as just me, right? But we're taught to look outside of ourselves for something else. And so
that's why you're taught to do that.
I'm realizing
look to the expert, look to the hierarchical authority, look to anything that you're smaller to, subject to. I want to make a programming note really important to some of what you just said. So in the connection, you keep referring to it as subtle. Well, it's only subtle in the beginning because you're so used to not paying attention, and you get so much other stuff that's at decibel splitting level, the TV, the this, the that, the other thing, right? That it just seems like a whisper and subtle because you got all sorts of noise going on. That's part of it. The other part is that it's not subtle at all. It's actually, it isn't shouting at you per se, although it can come through very strong and very authoritative, but that's only when you pick up your side of the conversation, when you prove that you can keep your heart open, that you will do what you have said you have agreed to do before you got to this body, as you're in this body, because the non-interference clause actually holds for you to you. And until you get with it, it can't be lifted. And because you love you so much, you will support you to do whatever it takes, as long as it takes, and that can be eons, to make choices, to shift, to do expansion. And if I'm going to just do linear for a minute, the little you is not listening or not choosing or not whatever, however you're going to characterize it, whatever is actually happening this time around, then so be it. You chose. And that's great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And don't let anybody tell you that there is, because there's not, because it's your choice. Because gone are the days of being subjected to the whims of anyone else outside of you. Gone. Period. Complete thought. End of story.
Wow. So do either one of you have anything else that you'd like to add to this energetic envelope in regards to this? This feels like a huge conversation. This is probably another one of those that will probably end up in multiple parts that will just come up with probably even a different name, but it will be because it's all so interconnected.
Yeah, and the theater is playing. There's lots of theater out there that we could, play with. So yeah.
There is lots of theater out there, and I don't know. It just seems we're gonna. I feel like something's multi-dimensional strategies are swirling even now. So I guess we'll revisit this one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much for this. We'll have all the usual things in all the usual places on this one. And if the person that had that question in mind could help me out with that, I'd really appreciate it. That'd be great.
Or any other questions that came up?
Well, absolutely. Or yes, absolutely. Please do. So till next time.